same year, a new era would begin under the control of the angel of the sun, whom Prometheus had named Michael. To those working within an esoteric tradition, it might have appeared a relatively easy thing to prepare for the new era of Michael, which was to begin in 1881. The angel Michael was dedicated to the expansion of human consciousness and freedom. Furthermore, it would be during the new age of the sun, which would begin in 1881, that the Jews would return to their homeland. And the pogroms of 1881 set in motion the massive Jewish immigration from Eastern Europe, with about 62,000 Jews, mostly from Russia, arriving in the United States between 1881 and 1884. But the pogroms of Russian Jews also caused their migration to Palestine. And here we see the hand of the Rothschilds, the House of Rothschild, at work, because the Rothschilds, of course, in overthrowing the Russian czars, their great wealth was entrusted to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds financed the Russian Revolution, which confiscated vast portions of the Orthodox Church's wealth. So the Rothschilds were behind these pogroms because they had to get the Jews to begin moving from Europe to the Holy Land. They also had other agendas going on here. They wanted the Jews to be coming to the United States because that was going to help them to set up the Federal Reserve System. But I won't go into that at this point. That was in 1881. The Age of Michael began with the return of the Jews to Palestine. And in 1897 was the First World Zionist Congress, headed up by Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl was acclaimed to be the president of the State of Israel, which wasn't in existence then, but they were plotting and planning for this state. Theodor Herzl was given the name Nasi, N-A-S-I, which means President of the State of Israel. And I'd like to read this quote. I'm not sure of the source. It may be from O.J. Graham's book, The Six-Pointed Star. I'll have to check on that. The Nasi was the head of the Sanhedrin, the religious court and legislature made up of 71 ordained scholars. In his book, Alten Neuland, Theodor Herzl designed the term Nasi for the head of the Jewish state. Upon its establishment, when the First Zionist Congress was convened in Basel, Theodor Herzl was elected to head the World Zionist movement. He was given the title Nasi. When the state was declared on May 15, 1948, Chaim Weizmann was elected to serve as the first Nasi, the president of the State of Israel. Now the question is, was Hitler the Nasi of Israel between Herzl and Weizmann? Since there is good evidence that Hitler was at least part Jewish, and of course the State of Israel wouldn't have come about without the Holocaust, and this was what the Zionist movement needed to set up the State of Israel, was Jews demanding to be let out of Europe to go to the Holy Land. So between the pogroms in Russia and the Holocaust in Germany and the surrounding countries, the Zionist movement had exactly what they needed. There was created demand for the State of Israel. And just another note about Hitler. The Office of Strategic Services profile that I was quoting from before states that one of their agents reported, in Munich in the early autumn of 1936, I saw colored pictures of Hitler in the actual silver garments of the Knights of the Grail. But these were soon withdrawn. They gave the show away. They were too near the truth of Hitler's mentality. And they were also too near the truth of the reality that was behind the Holocaust. From 1933 to 1939 and beyond was the Holocaust. I'd like to read now from O.J. Graham's Six-Pointed Star, a powerful book. I recommend it. I have a link to it from our homepage, how to order this book. If you want to understand the Zionist movement, purchase that book. It's not a long book, but it's a powerful book. And O.J. Graham, himself a Jew, stated, "From the records it seems that from 1933 to 1939, the Jews were expected to leave Germany and all Nazi-occupied territories. At the same time, there was a very definite selection system and a very restrictive immigration policy on who went to Palestine, headed by the Zionists. After 1939, it seems the annihilation camps were set up to rid Germany of those Jews who did not make it to Palestine or anywhere else. Lucy Dawidowitz, in her book, The War Against the Jews, had this to say. At their 18th Congress in 1933, the Zionists established within the Jewish Agency for Palestine a central bureau for the settlement of German Jews, which to begin with excluded anti-Zionists as applicants for certificates. Young people in good health with some training for agricultural work or manual trades and persons with capital were the preferred candidates for Aliyah, in a process where the needs and interests of Palestine took precedence over the strategy of rescue." So here we see that the Zionists were very selective. Hitler was very selective about who went to Palestine and who was exterminated in a concentration camp. There was no strategy of rescue if you were not a Zionist. Nathan, I'm continuing to read from O.J. Graham's book. Nathan Birnbaum was an early Zionist. In fact, he was the one who coined the term Zionist. He was present with Herzl at the First Congress at Basel. Birnbaum left the movement in 1899 and became completely orthodox and absolutely hostile to the Zionist movement. In his paper titled In Bondage to Our Fellow Jew, he writes, "It seems that we are better qualified with our bondage to the Gentiles than with our bondage to our brothers, who are estranged from the Torah and its teachings. When our own estranged brothers, who next to us are the mere grain, not only persecute us, but themselves give a handle to our persecution. When they not only meddle in our affairs, but take them wholly out of our hands. When they not only refuse to let us go our ways in peace, but actually try to obstruct our road forever." Birnbaum wrote these words in 1901. Michael Seltzer, in his book Zionism Reconsidered, says, "Not even the events of 1933 aroused their political interest." He refers to the Zionist organization. "They were naive enough to see them as a God-sent opportunity for an undreamt-of wave of immigration to Palestine. When the Zionist organization, against the natural impulses of the Jewish people, decided to do business with Hitler, to trade German goods against the wealth of German Jewry, to flood the Palestine market with German products, and thus make a mockery of the boycott against German-made articles, they found little opposition in the Jewish national homeland, and least of all among its aristocracy. How many Jews know these facts?" Of course, he's talking about the transfer agreement. At their 18th Congress in 1933, the Zionists established within the Jewish Agency for Palestine a central bureau for the settlement of German Jews, which excluded anti-Zionists as applicants for certificates. So you see, if you weren't a Zionist Jew, if you didn't believe that God wanted all the Jews to return to Palestine before the Messiah came, if you were a religious Jew, you were probably sent to a concentration camp and exterminated. The Zionists were only interested in politically Zionist Jews. And from there, I'd like to skip to 2001. In our own century, we have seen the Zionist movement move through 1948 and the creation of the State of Israel. And here we are in 2005. 4 years ago, George Bush declared his crusade, which has turned into what looks like is going to be a Mideast takeover, as the Crusaders move from Iraq, possibly to Iran, possibly to Pakistan, Syria. Who knows where they'll go next? But I'd like to look a minute at George Bush. He is a descendant of the Merovingian De Vere bloodline, one of the highest bloodlines of the Merovingians. Laura Bush is a Sinclair and a Bruce, her maiden name, and George Bush is a member of the Order of Skull and Bones, a high-level Templar order. George Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, signed into law the Noahide laws. And these are the laws that will bring the Gentiles under bondage to these Jewish Zionists, these potentates who are going to rule the world. In the Noahide laws, we have a complete article, a report on our website about them. One of the laws is the prohibition of idolatry. And of course, the Jews have stated that they believe that Christians are idolaters because they worship Trinity. And the Jews believe that God is only one, that there are no three persons in the Godhead. Therefore, because Christians worship Jesus Christ, they are idolaters. Now, the penalty for idolatry, according to the Noahide laws, is beheading. And of course, we see in Revelation that the tribulation saints, many of them are beheaded for the testimony of Jesus and for the Word of God. Now, George Bush's father signed this into public law with the Congress after the Congress voted. And our present President, George Bush, has had the Jewish Lubavitchers as guests in the White House. This was the group that is behind the Noahide laws. So George Bush, although many Christians believe him to be a good Christian, we believe that he is really a Knight Templar. He is doing what the crypto-Jews did all through the Middle Ages. He is an agent provocateur, and what he is doing is debasing Christianity. And he is misrepresenting Christians as warmongers, as the Knights Templars who justify killing the infidel instead of preaching the gospel to them. Remember, Albert Pike said in his letter to Mazzini, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into the public view. What is happening around the world is that the world sees Christianity as George Bush is representing